Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today, we pick up exactly where we had left off because we left compiler errors in our code. Specifically, I was trying to look through and make sure that all of the various different bits of text and the numbers and everything else all the different pieces are disabled or currently enabled based on what's in the class. So if your class has access to a certain skill, we want to make sure that that's enabled for that. Wow, my brain just disappeared for a sec. We want to make sure that that button or that bit of text is not only functionally disabled or enabled, but we also want to make sure that it's also visibly enabled or disabled. And one thing I was I know what I need to do. We get component text. There we go. .color. So, one of the big things to take care of in this case is the fact that we have a giant block of information. Specifically, it's the available skill block. And if we look at all of the class skills, is that it? Yeah. And we grab the index based on the class. Okay, so now we have the skill block that says whether or not everything is on or off. Great. So there's our current skill block, and all we're going to do is check the available skills. If that comes out to be true, then we should probably set ourselves to something meaningful, like, say, I'll just put this on the next line to make it readable. If we have that current skill, we'll leave it alone. Actually, most of them... okay, no, we're going to be messing with these every frame. We need to make sure. We need to make sure that these get enabled and disabled every single time. So here's our enabled UI color. Otherwise, our disabled UI color is what kicks in. And it is still complaining about this. So I'm just going to do a quick bit of parentheses just to make sure it knows what order of operations. The reason it was complaining is because it would do i.toString first. It would evaluate the function expression, which then would provide us with a string. And you can't just explicitly declare enumeration out of a string. So I just went in and I said, no, I mean that you need to convert I to this enumeration. Once I is an enumeration, now we need to do the toString. Don't mind Flask, they're not a... oh, okay, well, I just talk to spam bots, don't worry. Alright, so we've now turned the text color on and off. We also have to do other things. And one thing I'm actually kind of tempted to do is this, just to make my life a little easier, because I'm going to be using that multiple times throughout the system here. So we say weaponry base, find child, we've got the label, we've got the buttons that we care about. Let's see, is there a find children? No, it's just find child. Kind of unfortunate, because I want the array of children at this point. I don't really see a quick and easy way to take care of this otherwise, other than just changing the names. I'm not a huge fan of that, though. Let's see, weaponry base is a transform. Get components in children. No, not what I'm looking for. Get child. That's by index. Not what I'm looking for either. The find functionality. Find a child by name and returning it. Also not what I'm hunting for. I'm looking for a list of children is the problem. Or at least I'm looking for more than one. And the problem is that if I go for two children with the same name, I will always find the first one every single time. Get child count. So what I'm actually hoping to hunt for here is finding a way to get multiple children who happen to have the same name. Because right now Unity likes to early exit. But I'm really not seeing it. So we're going to do something really cool that C# allows us to do. If I go into my game utility scripts, I can't help but notice that GameUtil is this, like, non-static class, which is really weird. There's a null reference exception. I'm sorry, but that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Anyway, so what we're going to do, we have a static function. I need to look at what I have again. So let's see. Oh, I know. Okay. This is going to be a transform array. And what we're going to do is pretty simple. It's find all children. Instead of, find all children. And instead of our normal parameter stuff, what we're going to do is mark it specifically as an extension function. So we're going to say this transform T. And then string child name. And this does something really crazy that most other languages can't do too well, and I gotta say I like the fact that we can do crazy kooky things like this. So in this case, when we say find all children, we're gonna do something a little probably less less perfect in terms of I'll have to think about it for a bit, but I'll show you the neat stuff that we can do. T.child count. So first off, we can reference T as if it were any other variable, because honestly, it is any other variable for us. We don't have to worry about who's getting called here. This is just, I want to find all children within T. So don't worry about that quite yet. We do want to try and... So you can see it's already in here. Here's our find all children. Really cool. T.getChild. Here's our index. Here's where things are going to get a little odd, because I don't exactly have a great way of doing this, because Unity has a lot of code behind their find stuff. And actually, I just realized find objects of type. They might already have done this for me. I'm not seeing it. Yeah, okay. Just making sure I am not missing anything blatantly obvious here. Cool. So we're going to grab the child, and we're going to say, child name dot, code, what are you doing? So first off, if it contains a slash, right? Forward slash or backslash. I think only one of them, only forward slashes get taken care of by Unity, as far as I know. So if it contains a forward slash, then we need to do the following. We need to, gosh, is there really no better way to do this? Part of me doesn't want to add a new function that takes over crap that Unity should be doing. And I could solve this by just not being stubborn. Crud. I think I'm going to solve this with less code and just not be stubborn. Oh boy. Here we go. happened to all my stuff? Oh, okay. Free aspect. No, we want a 16 by 9. Actually, specifically, we want a fixed resolution 1020, no, 1280 by 720. It's going to be a little weird about it, apparently, but, oh, okay. That's not good. That's something we'll have to think about. The fact that it doesn't want to play nice with the inspector and everything else we've got going on is not a good sign. Huh. Yeah. We'll have to poke at that some in the not so distant future, because that's not good. It only works on my screen resolution. Great game, Rob. Not how we actually want to handle that. But we're not going to worry about that quite yet. We've got other things to take care of first. The biggest of them being the fact that our buttons are all marked with the same name. So we have Axes button and Axes button. Well, as it turns out, if we go into the scene, we can actually see that it's an Axes button minus. And luckily, because plus and minus do happen to be in the set of ASCII characters that Unity allows inside of a object name, it's actually pretty easy for us to come along and say, well, this is a minus, and this one's a plus. We do have to do it by hand, unfortunately, because the names are just different enough that we can't just batch do it as much as I would love to. So there's another minus, another plus. Just got to take care of all of this garbage. Remember how I said the UI, or the character creation, would be a ton of UI? I was not kidding. It also doesn't help that we have a shortened week this week. Once again, family obligations kind of start to kick in around New Year's. Family and friends, I should say. I've got a bunch of friends coming in the area, so I probably won't be streaming much, seeing as how people will be sleeping in this room later on. And I'd rather not wake them, if possible, with my streaming habits. So, if you add me on Twitter, if you follow me is the actual correct word, you'll see when I go online. You'll see also when I'm probably not planning to go online because, well, I've got other obligations that I do have to take care of. Also, I can't help but notice there's a whips label, but no whips buttons. Let's just fix that. There's the new button. And that one, we're going to also copy and paste. Whips. That would have caused us a little pain. I'm glad we caught that early. Cool. So, we're just going to do this the somewhat boring way in comparison. Although we do have another thing that we can cache and keep a little easier set aside for us, and that is the skill name. And what the easiest way to do that, obviously, is we do this kind of messy skill used I dot to string. So now all we have to do is say, well, this is actually just skill name. Plus button minus. And we'll have to do a plus button plus for this. Interactable is equal to skill available. Also, you guys will, unfortunately, I've got like all kinds of crazy stuff planned recently, but one of the things that I've got coming up in, it's like end of January, mid to end of January, is a trip to Hawaii. So you will not find me online during that time. I will not be, well, I'll be in a place with internet, but I don't think I'll be in a place with decent enough internet to be able to do something as crazy as stream. And I'm definitely not bringing my entire stream setup to do that. So not going to be online during that time either, because I will be busy maxing and relaxing. Taking care of myself and kind of getting a whole bunch of just relaxing out of the way. I don't take many vacations. You guys may note the fact that I'm on like video 80 something because I just don't take many vacations. From my work, from my game work, none of it. Alright, cool. So we've got on class change. It enables or disables things based on the class we picked previously. And that should do pretty nicely, actually. Let's try it out. I'm just kind of curious. Oh, except that we need to swap ourselves over to a different class, probably. So we'll give ourselves some stat points and some skill points to play with. We've got our class skills to handle. Everything seems to be in order for the most part. We have also got the character information of what our stat block, our personal stat block looks like. So let's disable page 2, re-enable page 1. Vacations? Nah, vacations are great. I just don't do them often. I tend to wait until my vacation time at a company is pretty much maxed out, which takes like a year or two, honestly. I mean, it takes a long time to start to max out that vacation time. And it's at that point when you kind of go, right, I need to start spending this or else I start wasting it. So we go, hey, guardsman, and what is complaining? The class stat minimums. So apparently something broke inside here. And we have to fix it before we can continue, unfortunately. Class stat minimums, reset stats. Okay, I'm gonna guess this is on class change, but also actually it happens when I start a code. So I'm gonna, yeah, because it starts here, I'm going to also assume that it just, bad things are happening and we need to take care of it. So not just here, but also here, which means it's just easier to put a breakpoint here. Yeah, the US is kind of terrible when it comes to vacation times. We're also terrible at work weeks. We seem to think that 40 is like a minimum, not a maximum. And that's one thing that I've been lucky enough to be able to take a stand on when it comes to being able to handle. Okay, yeah, there are no integers in here. That's wrong. I've been lucky enough to be able to be a integral enough part of the company that I can take a bit of a stand when it comes to people saying stupid shit like, oh, we might have to stay late, or, oh, you know, it's great when you spend extra time at the office. No, it's not. Don't do it. Ever. It's idiotic, and it completely wastes everybody's time the next day. Yeah, you get stuff done that day. You might find yourself in a groove that helps out, but you burn out so much faster on your own job. I really am with the company, not the companies, well, the companies as well, but not just the companies, also the countries that are sponsoring less than 40-hour work weeks. 40 hours is kind of that maximum peak efficiency. And I definitely would not mind doing overtime more often if I worked something like 30 hours normally, right? 30 hours is, you know, a lot easier than 40. 2 hours less per day, so 6-hour work days, I can do that. And then someone says, oh, sorry, you have to stay late. I kind of go, don't care. You know, I only work 30 hours a week. I can work a couple extra. It's not a big problem. So that's kind of something that I've always definitely enjoyed the idea of. And I'm really hoping that the startup I'm working at does well enough that I can stand up and say, I don't think we should be doing 40-hour work weeks, because I want to have more of a life at home. I want to have more of a life in general. Cool. Okay, so here's our stats. Great. Let's say, oh, I just realized I didn't pick an enabled and disabled UI color. When things are enabled, we'll just say white is a great color for them to be. When they are disabled, we are going to make them fully opaque, but what we're going to do is we're going to leave them at a slight, like a pretty dark gray, honestly. I'm actually tempted, we'll see how that looks. And we'll play with it from there. Do 60 to 80 hours a week? Yeah, see, that's where I kind of draw the line. I definitely don't. I refuse to do more than my 40 because I know that after 40, my productivity just starts to drop like a rock. And if I let them push me on a regular basis, it is not going to go well. So, okay, it's not able to find the skill. It's not able to find this text label that we've got attached to things. And if we look at it, okay, so using the transform, what is this transform? The transform is the character creation transform. So we go page 2, weaponry, scroll view. And I'm just checking spelling as I go. Then there's a viewport. Great. There's content. Also great. And in this case, I'm going to put a breakpoint here because I just don't trust whatever is happening here. Because it should then just be able to find Axe's label. And that should be the end of it. There shouldn't be any more discussion after the fact. It's an Axe's label. What's the point? I do wish they gave a little more information when they dumped something into the log like this, but... Okay, so archery. Do I not have like an archery button? I don't. That's my problem. Oh, we missed one. And by missing one, it's now causing us to have everything complain. Okay, so I'm going to take axes, and we're just going to duplicate axes. Just for a moment. Just long enough to say, well, it's not actually axes. This is the archery button minus. This is the archery label, even though it doesn't say archery yet, it's about to. Also, does this have a space at the end of it? Yeah, it does. Stop it. No random spaces. And finally, we have the archery button plus. Yeah, like you guys are saying, working long hours like that, yes, you can get a ton done. The downside being that it burns you out so quickly, and it really, at times it made me really resent my job. I really was not a huge fan of it at all. So it's something to keep in mind. If you can handle that kind of stuff, all the more power to you, don't get me wrong. But I am just not one of those people who can handle that kind of constant high rate of work. Alright, there we go. Archery is now added in. Hopefully I didn't miss any others. We'll see, I suppose. Aha! Okay. I'm not seeing any change. Oh, possibly because I picked a guardsman as my base? I'm not quite sure. Let's switch back from page 2, page 1, first off. So, beggar. Why not? Oop. Still having some trouble in here. And I bet it's because we didn't fill out the skills thing in its entirety. On the upside, it should have, if I hit next. So you can see certain things are enabled and disabled. Also, some of these are incredibly ugly because the coloring that I chose was not good. If it's disabled, black is fine. Or if it's enabled, black is fine. If it's disabled, let's make it incredibly close to transparent. I just realized that I can't do that. I just want to make sure I get the coloring right here. That should do the trick. I'm trying to keep the look normal. So okay, we go through, it goes through all those skills and does it in the first place, except it's not. That's the weird thing. It's not acting like it can find the different parts. So I didn't mean to bring up this. My bad. We know what's going wrong, so for now I'm going to avoid it. You'll note that the buttons get disabled. Great. These buttons still stay enabled. That's perfect. Also, you'll note that some of the skills, the way they're getting kind of, what's the better term? The way they're getting hidden, that is actually kind of cool. I do want to turn it down a little lower. Maybe drop it to 32, just so it's a little less obvious what's there. It looks almost kind of blurred out as well. Interesting. Okay, well, I've learned some stuff. Specifically that I want to drop this number from 64 to 32. Also that we need to add in the rest of our skills, otherwise this thing's going to keep complaining. Except that that's the one thing that I'm really not sure about yet, is whether these skills are final. That's the part that gets me, is I look at this and kind of go, yeah, it's good looking, it's got a lot of stuff, but I still haven't decided 100% on these skills. So we've burnt through about half of the stream time. Okay, I'm going to take a look at this UI, because this UI is also being kind of weird. You'll note that the moment I start to change my aspect ratio, that the background goes with it just fine. The background actually scales as you expect it to. But everything else in the scene is pretty static. And I want to try and take care of that if possible. And this might mess everything up, and I'm going to feel really stupid in a moment if it does. It actually, I know it will mess everything up. But that's how it goes. Lord Fortus, I am unsure. In terms of skills, I'm unsure this is the final set of skills I want. I want to try and make sure that all of the skills are both reasonably useful, and also I want to make sure that all of the skills, there are enough skills, I should say, that every class feels like they have something useful going for them. So yes, a skill means new gameplay and new amounts of work and features that have to go into the game, but I would rather have the right number of features and the right skills going in than trying to lock things in place now and going, oh crap, I have to change it now because I have one less skill, or oh, I have to go through and mess with this because I removed or added or changed one of my skills in the game. So I'm kind of debating all of that right now, trying to figure out if that's what I want to do or if that's just not the case in terms of what skills I'd like to have be in the final product. So I need to do some design work, honestly. I need to look at my skills and say, is this going to be useful? Is this going to be fun? Is this something the player will ever put points into? Because I hate dead skills, right? Those things you look at in RPGs and you say, why would I ever put a skill point into this when I can put skill points into this, this, and this instead? Kind of the power creep mechanic in some way. You look at it and you say, why would I bother with this low-powered skill? Because there are high-powered skills I would happily take instead. I kind of want them to all be on even ground, which means thinking a little bit about what I do with the skills and how I use them. So here's going to be something painful, and I hate to do it, but yeah, I thought so. See, and that's one of the things, Fortus, that I want to try and keep in mind is if somebody makes a low skill character, are they going to be as handicapped as a high skill character? Or if somebody makes a purely stats based character, will it work? Alright, I hate to say it, but I might have to shift things around. The upside being that now, if we look at how this is handled by Unity, it is handled a lot better. Everything in the scene, you can see it resizing. If you look at the black bars on the right and top, you can see it resizing the panel and then changing everything in to match, which is great because it means that everything is going to, I only have to put the UI in a second time. And then after that, everything will work. Everything already works. It's just a matter of kind of taking care of that notion. So I'm messing with the anchors right now to stick this in the upper left-hand corner. You'll notice I shifted the pivot to the upper left-hand corner, and then what I'm doing is I'm putting that pivot in the corner so that no matter what I do when I resize this UI, that will always be in the same place, regardless of what's going on. Sometimes you can design around having weird resolutions and interesting things by having a good hierarchy and also making sure that you have good anchors and pivots for things. I'm not going to worry too much about anchors and pivots for everything else. Everything else is mostly taken care of. The only thing I do feel the need to kind of do at this point is we are going to take everything here and drop it back into the scene because it was kind of getting away from us. So that's one thing. We also need to take our next button and pull it back into the scene ever so slightly, because that I did not want to be floating around over there. And let's just drop the size of this button and increase the width of it somewhat. I'll figure more out about that later. Not really too worried about it now. It does look like I lost a little bit of height here. So I'm going to have to do a little squishing and squeezing with stats inside the stat block to get it all cleaned up. But it's not the end of the world. The biggest issue you'll see is that once I get all of this kind of put back into place, we're going to have to do a little bit of compacting. There we go. Just kind of press things together again. Make sure that it all plays very nicely. And is all very visible. That's the other part, where we want to make sure that this is all visible to us. Why does this not want to play nice? I guess it's because I just don't have enough space anymore. My next button takes up kind of way too much space. So let's just shift. Actually, not those. Let's just shift this. Nope, don't even need the stats label. Shift this back over. I'm actually going to like compress this whole thing down ever so slightly. Just to give myself a little room. The labels here are taking up a little too much space. There we go. And now that gives me room to do crazy stuff like, and I say crazy, it's not actually all that crazy at all. Probably should have done that first, but whatever. Now they're only clipping slightly. I'd honestly be happier if they weren't clipping at all. Also, I'd kind of be happier with this further in the corner. Just so it looks a little more even, that we have two sides to our UI. We have the stats that we're about to put in, and then we have the actual stat numbers on the right-hand side. It's kind of why I had all these labels floating around closer to that edge. I liked, whoops, I missed one. I liked having them sit over here next to it because it felt like they were a little more connected that way. Problem is then this next button becomes, or continues to be, a problem. People like to have next buttons in the lower right hand corner. It's where you look for them. The problem being that now, this thing, even if I shorten it and drop the text size inside of it, let's say I drop the text size to 20. We all know it says next. We don't have to worry about it. Okay, great. Actually, I'm going to even go so far. We'll leave it at 20. I don't want to drop it to 18 just yet. And we're going to drop its size even further. I think that'll do for now. I'm not entirely convinced, but I think that'll do for now. It gets things out of the way. It makes sure that everything fits as we expect it to. If I do any resizing, you'll note that everything stays, for the most part, where it is. The only thing I now have left is this giant blank spot here that I'm somewhat unhappy with. Kind of tempted to center this at least. See if it doesn't help. Feel like it takes up more of that empty space. And it kind of feels a little better centered. Okay, so we've got our stats, we've got our character stats, and then a next button. Sweet. Watch it also be broken on the next page, because, well, I hit next, and you'll notice these are off the top of the screen, other stuff is not quite right. The previous and next buttons aren't quite where we want them to be. Luckily, everything seems to be scaling pretty well. So, for the most part, we're in where we want to be. We're just not quite there. And this is something you have to mess with a lot when you do UI work. In any game, you find yourself doing the UI work 4 different resolutions and making sure that within all these different resolutions that it plays nicely. Okay, so shift that back in here because we really don't want things outside of our space. And we have our skills and remaining label and points that need to come back into the scene. I would very much appreciate them back in the scene at least. Let's see. Our next and previous button are also trying to hide off the bottom of the screen. That's not allowed either. And since we're here, let's just... No, wrong one. That one. Next and previous buttons. 96 by 28. And of course that makes the text too small, or too large actually. The nice thing is when we do some stuff like this, it then allows us to say, take the bottom of this and expand it ever so slightly. Not much. But something like that. Give us a little more wiggle room in terms of what's on screen and what isn't. Also, I don't like having decimal numbers in any of my transforms when possible. So you'll note I just kind of go through and clean shit up sometimes. And it's mostly because I really don't like decimals in my transforms. I really don't. There we go. Just want to make sure these are all the same since I have multiple scroll views that are enabled or disabled at any given time. In fact, we can even take this top and push it a little closer. Like that, so that we have not only our buttons on top, but it looks a little more integrated. That the buttons look more like tabs than they do buttons. Cool. And now, if I hit play, it should, and I can actually stop the debugging so it speeds up Unity's start and stop procedure. But even at tiny little resolutions, it's not exactly playable, but it's viewable. And at decent resolutions, you can play it, and at larger resolutions, it looks great. That's actually really what we're hunting for in this case. We want something that looks good at a lot of different resolutions. This kind of proves the point I was hunting for, which is good. And gives us about 15 minutes to spare, which is enough time for me to commit the work I just did. Something you should always do at fairly regular intervals. You'll notice I haven't really done that in a while. Wait, what? I deleted all these textures? I'm pretty sure I just moved them. Yeah, I did. Assets, textures. Okay, yes, I just shifted them into a folder. I scared myself for a second unnecessarily. Cool. So we're going to mark this as the starting of a character creation screen. And anything else? I can't actually think of anything else that's bundled in here. And shifting of enumerations to a common file. Just so that you'll note that we have all of our enums floating around in this enums.cs file at this point. That's just to make things a little easier to find so we're not hunting all over our game code for something that may or may not actually exist in terms of our game code and where it might be hidden in our project. One of the few things that is incredibly frustrating is hunting for something and not exactly knowing where it is. And if you don't quite know the name, if you know, oh, I'm looking for this enum, but it's kind of named like this, that's not going to help you find it with find all. And if you can't hunt it down easily, it's going to waste some of your time. So kind of a code cleanliness thing there. You never want to start hiding enums in weird places unless you can really help it. You'll notice that most of my enums are either in the enum file or they're internal to the class that uses them and not visible to other classes anyway. So we don't really care a ton. Cool. Also, moved portraits to portrait folder. That's kind of expected though, moving the portraits to the portrait folder. I've been getting a little pickier about my file structure these days. I'm starting to figure out that I need some hard-lined way to say, no, this is where my models go, this is where my materials go, and this is where my textures go. Stuff like that. Okay, Tortoise SVN's being a little bizarre, but that's fine. And the point of all this work, everything I've been doing here, is essentially ensuring that I can continue to work on the project easily, even though I'm the only one working on it, that it stays something easy to work on, and that I don't lose a ton of time doing silly little menial tasks. Cool. Trying to think of anything else I can get done in like 10 minutes real quick, but I'm afraid I don't really have much like that. I guess there is one thing I want to look at, although it may or may not actually be terribly helpful, but I do want to look at it anyway. Let's say Starter Town. This is where I actually want to be looking. That game we haven't seen in quite a long time. Asset store. I happened to pick up a dungeon pack lately. I need to do a little work, ensure that it plays nice with everything else. Also, I can't help but notice that the day-night cycle, I think this isn't the one I use. I think this is a different day-night cycle. I need to figure out how to remove things from here. But this day-night cycle needs updating, and I'm not too worried about it. I can actually probably remove it somehow from this list. That's going to be the hard part, though, figuring out how to remove it. This I do need to update, and I am curious what changed. This is something you kind of have to spend a little time doing if you use people's packs. You have to go through, update, and import the changes and see what they changed to see if it's worth updating and importing, because it might break something, and we want to make sure that obviously we don't want to break our existing scenes because we updated, and we don't want duplicates of things because we updated either. So she added a new floor texture, furniture, and food. And I'm kind of curious if I can find an example of the new... That looks like the new floor texture here. This kind of angled wood piece. Which, I gotta say, that's impressive. Also, the food made it in, apparently. I didn't know it wasn't in before, but I can appreciate adding new things to a texture pack after you've released it, just to make it a little more... make it a little more desirable, for lack of better words. So yeah. Let's see here. I have downloaded this Dungeon Builder kit. Didn't I? I thought I told it download. This is what I get for clicking away from it. So we're going to download, we're going to try importing. We'll see how it fits into our current scheme. You'll note that my current file scheme doesn't really have a lot of room for the way that certain systems want to put packages into my game. I'm probably going to put it into the models, honestly. So when I hit import, and it sits here and decompresses and does everything else that it needs to do. There we go, collecting content. So first off, I'm not going to put the Unity file in. I don't need Unity files to be flying around in my system. You'll also note how everything is built inside their system, how they have the model and followed by the materials that that model uses, the textures, and then the prefabs. I kind of like this style, and I've been enjoying it a lot more recently. I'm not sure if this is what I want to be my final style, but I definitely think it's something worth looking into. Also, I can't help but notice that it's got duplicates of things marked mobile. I want to make sure that I don't import all the mobile stuff because we're not making a mobile game. I have no plans of trying to make this work on a mobile device, at least for now. And so we want to ensure that pretty much everything we've gotten here not only plays nice, but also doesn't include unnecessary work. So, for example, if I sit here and crunch some of this down, you'll notice that, okay, dungeon floors, disabled. Dungeon stairs, great. Dungeon stairs mobile, nope, don't want it. And we're just going to go through and make sure that we only get the assets that we want. Because there are going to be extra assets, and we don't want to take up too much space. The more space we take up, not only the bigger our download is, but also the more memory we're going to end up eating up. So we kind of want to avoid that. Once again, mobile things, no. Mobile things, no. I might have to just like rearrange my entire file structure. I do really like how this kind of exists or how it works. Barrels, candelabras, chairs, fire pits, lanterns. I just like to look over things, ensure that I'm not importing anything insane or anything that's going to break stuff. I also can't help but notice they have fire pits that are lit and unlit. That's really cool. That's something a lot of artists don't really think of. If they're in a hurry, they'll say, oh, okay, here's your fire pit, and it'll just be not lit all the time. Or they'll give you a version that has a cool fire effect in it that you can never turn off because, well, they didn't think about it. Cool. That looks like exactly how I want things to be. Lemony Fresh, glad you could join us. Sorry you're joining us in the last 5 minutes. I'm actually just about to sign off. But thank you everybody for joining me. For those of you who are here for the first time, those of you who are helping boost me towards that top spot in the game dev directory. Thank you very much. I really appreciate all of you being here. If you haven't done it yet, we're second in the game dev channel. If you haven't seen this before, or if you just haven't done it yet, please hit that follow button in the lower left hand corner. We are working our way towards that 1,000 follower count. We're getting there. And we're trying to also make sure that everybody gets a good feel of how the stream is and that they get what they want and enjoy things from the stream. And the more people we get, the closer we get to crazy stuff like not just a sub button to help support the game, but also stuff like getting that cross or that multiple stream resolution support that everybody wants. That's the big thing I'm kind of either hoping to build my own machine to do for me or to get enough followers and viewers that Twitch will do it for me because, well, I'd rather that Twitch do it, not me, honestly. But thank you again, everybody. You'll notice that the dungeon stuff did get imported into the scene, and we just have to find homes for all of it. Shifting the models to the right folder and all that. But I don't have time to do that now. So I'm going to hop off. thank you again, guys. I hope you guys have a great day. I'm at the top. I'm not quite. I'm on the top row. I'm definitely on. Whoa. Okay. And he must have just signed off. I am the top person now. Ha ha. Well, thank you very much. You guys are amazing. And keep up being awesome. I will see you guys tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow. Tomorrow is a day. Tomorrow's a day I'll be online. See you tomorrow. Take care, everyone. Have a great day.